Hey y'all, welcome back to the Georgia Cat Skinner channel and the second installment of trying to figure out what is going on with the wiring on the old Ford L8000 dump truck. I hadn't been able to get a lot of video of this one because it's pretty tight, cramped quarters, and I have been absolutely pulling my hair out for 2 days trying to chase down these gremlins that's got the lights and everything not working. We took the grill out of the truck here so we can get to this bus bar that's what goes. All of these wires are what's coming from the firewall on the truck. There's another bus bar up there, and then all of this is what's actually going out to the headlamps and everything. So we actually have the headlights working, but it's because I decided to just rewire the whole truck. So what I have done is, this was all the wires that went to the original light plug, and we just cut it off, and we're going to rewire it using the same plug so the original headlight switch will work, but we're running new hots and to the plug, and then new wires out to all the accessories. Okay, we're going to start right here. We've got a new hot directly off the battery. That's on the hot side of the starter contactor, and it runs down to that circuit breaker right there, which then runs into the cab. And that circuit breaker feeds our new fuse block right here, which is just going to have the headlights, tail lights, and interior lamps, marker lights, that sort of stuff on it. And we ran new hots. All three of those are new hots that go to the, or four of those are new hots that go to the light switch. We had determined that the switch was good, and then when I started messing with all the wiring under here, just trying to trace down what went to where, stuff started, there was stuff that had power on it that shouldn't have, and then stuff that didn't, that should. And after I got to messing around with all the wiring, I actually started losing power to everything. So that was why, before we ever cut anything, just trying to moving wires around and trying to trace wires down and all that sort of stuff. And we found some naked wires here, and all this up in here looks pretty nasty. That's coming off of the ignition switch. And it's just absolutely freaking stupid the way this thing's wired up. So we're just going to run all new wires, and I'll try to get as much video of that as I possibly can for you. Okay, here's something crazy for you. So, in trying to figure out what all goes to where on this thing, I pulled the gauge cluster out because I had a black and yellow wire that came through the firewall, which was what powered the front parking lights. Well, it came through the firewall, and then I sort of lost it in the main wiring harness, and I couldn't find where it went to. I found it where it came through the firewall, but once it entered the main wiring harness, I didn't know where it went. And looking on the switch end down here, there was not a black and yellow wire down there. Black with a yellow stripe. There was also not one on this side. But I did find this brown wire right here is what goes to the rear parking lights. So, curiosity got the best of me, and I pulled the gauge cluster out, and I found what has happened here. Okay, here's the black wire with a yellow stripe. And here is the brown wire that goes to the rear parking lights. All of that is soldered to 2 more brown wires that go to the switch. Alright, these 2 wires go to the headlight switch. So, we have front parking lights, rear parking lights. These 2 wires that are soldered to all of that go to the headlight switch. Okay, I cut the headlight switch plug loose because I'm rewiring the whole thing anyway. But here are the 2 wires, and I've stripped them back because I was doing some testing on them. Here are the 2 brown wires that come from behind the gauge cluster. This was their location on the switch. This was per the wiring schematic for this switch. This one is supposed to be the hot coming into the switch for the parking lights. And the one next to it is supposed to be the hot going out for the parking lights. But both of these wires were soldered together with the wires that went to the front and back parking lights. So essentially, there was no way that this circuit could work. Unless there is something somewhere that I am missing, it's not possible for this circuit to work, because there was no power coming in, or if there was power going in, it would have also been backfeeding through this wire, and the switch would have been a moot point, which was what was happening, because you couldn't turn the parking lights off. But I still haven't found where it could have possibly been getting its power from. Alright, y'all, I'm going to explain why the parking lights were staying on all the time. Alright. At some point, I showed y'all already how the parking light wires were just soldered together so they weren't getting power. They could not get power from the switch, but the parking lights were staying on all the time. Alright, this wire right here with the tape on it goes to the instrument cluster, and that's the lights for the instrument cluster. Alright, it was naked. This is a soldered joint that somebody had made at some point. This is a soldered joint somebody had made at some point. This wire went to one of them. There's a couple of more wires down here somewhere that have broke loose from it. Anyway, this is hot and this is hot all the time. They're constant hots from the battery. And this naked spot, which probably melted by the look of it when they were soldering one of these other joints, had got against this constant hot, and power was backfeeding through the instrument cluster to the headlight switch. And since the instrument cluster gets its power from the headlight switch when it goes to the parking light position and or headlight position, the power from here was backfeeding through this wire backwards through the switch and keeping the parking lights on all the time. Now the only thing we've got left to do is run down the brake light issue, which is on, oh, it's hard to see. It's on this wire right here, and you see this goobered up solder joint right here. One section of that comes from the brake light switch. Another leg of it goes to a dead end plug right here, and the third leg of it eventually goes to the turn signal switch, which is where you get the connection for both brake lights. So this is also catching a small amount of voltage all the time. Like, I think it's got 6 volts on it all the time, and it shouldn't have anything, and I'm not sure where it's picking that up at. So we're going to cut this and make a better splice right there, just going directly to the brake light switch. Okay, everybody, here's a recap of everything we've done, because I didn't get to get a lot of video of it. We're going to start out under the dash here, and what I thought was going to be just a simple fixing where rats had chewed some wires kind of project turned into fixing the worst hacked up wiring harness I think I've ever dealt with. You know, there was just so much wrong with this. And there still is a ton wrong with it, but there's everything is that needs to work is working now. So this isn't the idealist thing, but it's going to work for a while. All the naked wires that were under here that had been soldered together and not really insulated have got some tape on them now. There's quite a few wires under here that don't do anything, like that one that's been cut loose. That was just an extra that went to a dead plug off of this harness. That right there is actually the only wire that I have found that a rat has chewed on, and it didn't get all the insulation off of it, under the dash here, that is. There's a few under the hood, but there was also a 5-gallon bucket of rat crap on the engine when we started. So everything under here is finally running to the stuff that it needs to go to, and is at least semi-safe. Okay, we got a big circuit breaker under the hood right off of the battery, or the batteries, and then we've got this fuse block here. So all of our lighting is properly fused now. Everything else is ran off of circuit breakers. This here is the original circuit breaker for the 2-speed rear end, and it was still working properly, so we left it. There's a few circuit breakers under here that were also still working properly, so they're good to go, even though some of those, like these here, I probably just need to take out because they're not hot anymore. There's no hot wire at all going to that. Got all the gauge cluster working as it should. Got the brake lights fixed. The issue that I was having with the brake lights, when I got everything wired up in the turn signal switch and everything, as soon as you turned on the key switch, the brake lights came on. And the reason for that is that the chicken stick was engaged just a little bit. So that was keeping just enough pressure on the brake light switch to keep the brake lights on. Now, at some point between the night when I finally got mad and quit fooling with it, and the next morning, the brake lights quit working at all. They were on all the time as soon as you turn the key on, and then they quit working at all. And what I discovered is the wire that should have, the wire that was feeding the, well, that's the horn plug that comes off of the turn signal switch, but the wire that was feeding the turn signal switch from the brake light switch had 6 volts on it, coming from the plug to the brake light switch instead of vice versa. So that was another case of it backfeeding somewhere, and I think I showed you in a video where I thought that was. Got that, the extra stuff cut out and taped up. And we got our 4-way flashers working, our headlights working, all of our marker lights work. We got our tail lights working. Four-way flasher's doing great on that. The other marker lights on the back working. Let me tell y'all a little secret here real quick for anybody that doesn't know. On these old trucks, when you are changing them over from a incandescent bulb to LED bulbs on the turn signals, you have to have an LED compatible flasher, an electronic flasher, which is what this is. And I taped it up so it wouldn't come loose, but I will see if I can find a link and put in the description to that flasher, because it was a really cool little flasher. It was a plug and play direct replacement, and actually had an adjustment on it for how fast everything flashes. So I'm glad y'all hung out with me for this. I know it wasn't the best video, but it just kind of shows you what you get into fooling with the wiring on old trucks like this. All the problems in this truck that I found were man-made and had been that way for a long time. And somebody was just an absolute electrical hack. I think if they saw a wire, they cut it. So anyway, y'all stay tuned for the next one on the Georgia Cat Skinner channel, and like, comment, and subscribe. See yous on the next one.